What's up, guys? Um, there's a little latency here, so I got to wait for this to go through. So as you guys are seeing this, it'll be about 15 seconds behind or something. So you know how this works. If you can see me, if you can hear me, go ahead and just type a 1 in the comments. Let's see who can see me and hear me. Make sure that we are good to go here. If you can see me and hear me, go ahead and type a numero uno in the chat box wherever. And I will sit here and wait for the latency to come in so I know that everything's good. I certainly don't want to be doing this and find out that you can't see me, or especially that you can't hear me. All right, cool. Sean and Nick both can see and hear me. I don't know if Ollie can see me. I don't know if Dennis can see me. If you guys are in, I know there's 8 of you. Adam here, awesome. Now you guys are starting to come in. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. Just want to make sure people are in here. Going to give this some time for, you know, the workshop here to populate, if you will. So yeah, let's just. And if you guys are on the replay, obviously you can skip ahead a couple minutes because it usually takes a couple minutes for us to get warmed up here, make sure that everyone shows up and that sort of thing. So feel free to skip ahead if you are on the replay. But at this very moment, we are live. So I just want to make sure that everyone's here. Hey, Bobby, good to see you here. Thanks for typing that 1 over there. And as you come in, as you can see me, as you can hear me, make sure to just type a 1 in there. I just want to see who's here, who's paying attention, and who is ready to kind of go into this, all right? The faster you respond, the faster I go. While I'm waiting, you guys are probably wondering what the hell this orange thing is, and probably thinking maybe it's Tang or something like that. Nope, not Tang. This is mostly water. I guess Tang's mostly water too, but this is a little concoction that's pretty healthy. It's got filtered water, apple cider vinegar, turmeric, cayenne pepper, regular pepper, a little bit of Himalayan salt, and a couple other things. MSG, no, no, I don't know. A couple other powders and stuff like that. So it keeps me going. Spencer, good to see you in here. Thanks for typing your 1. And yeah, we are almost getting there. Almost getting there, guys. We'll start in just a sec. So while we are waiting, why don't you let me know where you're from, right? Where in the world are you watching me from? All right. Where are you watching me from? I wonder what time it is where you're at as well. I know we got Australia, Ollie. So if you're still around, buddy, looks like 5 a.m. over there, 4 p.m. here in Denver. Nick says, NOLA, gotcha. That is, I've only been there once. Pretty cool place. Although it does get a little crazy. Where are you guys from? I know the latency isn't this bad, so, you know, just making sure. Spencer, Bay Area, nice. I've got some friends in the Bay Area as well. Very cool. Sean's in Kerry, Ireland. Adam's in Australia, 9 a.m. where you're at. Nick is in. Hey, Jason. No, no, Nick. Hey, Nick. Um, Damien is in Australia, and Bobby's in Sweden. Nice. 11 p.m. 10 p.m. Where Sean's at. So nice. Got all over the world. Sydney, Australia. Nice, Nick. That's awesome. Never visited. Always wanted to. All right. So it looks like people are starting to come in here. Um, so as I mentioned, there's going to be latency. So sometimes I'll ask a question. It'll take a little time for you guys to hear the question and for me to get feedback from you guys. So pardon those little moments of uncomfortable silence or comfortable silence, if you don't mind a little bit of that. Silence is golden. But yeah, there will be some latency. Also, just be very clear. I will be sharing with you guys how, if you guys connect with me, if you like my philosophy, if you like the way I train, I will be sharing with you how you can work with me in the future if you want. How you can go deeper into this music production thing. But in the meantime, I want to just share loads of free actionable steps that, once you're done with this training, you know exactly what to do. I'm going to be sharing a PDF with you guys as well at the end of this training that gives you kind of the steps to what we're going to talk about here, which is how to recover those songs that kind of go south on you, the songs that start off really good, but they lose their spark, right? Because we don't want that. We want to finish our songs, and we want to be able to recover the songs that right now we're thinking about trashing. Because bottom line is most of the tracks that you make are going to be songs that you don't feel like finishing, and they might end up being some of your best work. So yeah, I'm going to definitely dive in pretty deep on that today, even though they're pretty simple steps. So with that, who is seeing me and hearing from me for the first time? Who does not know who I am or what I'm about? Type a 2 if you do not know who I am, or if you're not very familiar with me, or you've never seen me on any sort of live training or know anything about my website or whatever. Type a 2 if you are new to me, all right? I can already tell that my tea and my drink here are not going to last me very long. That's fine. Type a 2 if you are not familiar with me, guys. If you are familiar with me, type a 1. Type a 1 if you are. If you are not familiar with me, type a 2. All right, Bobby is not familiar with me. All right, Bobby, cool. Welcome. Adam's not familiar with me either. All right, cool. So a couple of you guys, Spencer, I recognize you, but yeah, I don't know if you're that familiar with what I do. So I will very quickly share what I'm about here. My name is Jason Timothy. Actually, my proper name is Jason Timothy Ward. But since I decided that I don't want to be a lawyer, I didn't think that the last name Ward sounded very artistic, so I used my middle name, Jason Timothy. So you can call me that if you want. So I've been training people on music software since around 1999, and by around 2004-ish, started being exclusive to training on Ableton. I just really dove really deep into that. Set up a website called musicsoftwaretraining.com. In the beginning, it was a really crappy website, and over time, it's developed into something that's decent. I've written a best-selling book on Amazon. You can search music production. Just type those words into Amazon, and my book should be like one of the first 5 things that show up. It's a bestseller on there, and it's called The Mental Game of Electronic Music Production. And surprisingly, it's got a 5-star review. 80% of the reviews I get are 5 stars. All the others are 4 stars. And there's only a one-star review, which has nothing to do with the book itself. It just has to do with people that a person that didn't like Kindle's format or something like that. So on top of that, I have developed a strategy that has helped hundreds of people finish more songs of higher quality and release them more consistently. I went from, maybe finishing 3 or 4 songs a year and developed a process that helped me to finish 52 songs in 13 months. And as opposed to when I was finishing 3 or 4 songs and not getting them signed, all the songs that I finished over this year period ended up getting signed, at least the ones that weren't like remixes or bootlegs. So that kind of showed me that I can move more quickly with my music, get more accomplished, and improve my quality all at the same time. So that is something that I'm known for training people on, and I'll share more about that later on. Of those sessions, I did get ended up with 2 #1 EPs on Beatport, if that matters to you, in my style of music. And then with later sessions, I got a 3rd #1 as well. So I'm hoping for a 4th one sometime this year, but we'll see what happens. But that's not really to brag or anything like that. It's just a matter of letting you guys know that the songs that I'm finishing faster are of release quality, right? And yeah, so that is me in a nutshell. I am a partner on a label called Punchis Records, Punchis. You could search that on Spotify or Apple Music or Beatport or what have you. You could search Jason Timothy if you want to take a look at the tracks that I've released. All those will show up on any of those as well. And yeah, that's me in a nutshell. So I've been doing this training thing since around 1999. And I've sat one-on-one with a number of people. So I've really developed an ability to figure out, what the most important things for people to learn are and how to really advance people very quickly from wherever they're at to where they're trying to go. So that is something that I try to share with you guys. So this is not really super prepared. By the way, as you can see, I'm not like some great speaker. I come from a music background, as you can see behind me right there. There's a guitar over there. I used to be a guitar player before I started making electronic music, and I was in some bands, and we won some contests, and did a lot of cool stuff. Sold out the Roxy Theater the week after David Bowie played, so he was my hero, and he kind of warmed up the stage for us back when I was younger. And around 1996, I really dove deep into electronic music, and I kind of put the guitar down. I've been actually picking it back up lately and really getting a kick out of it. But yeah, so I'm not like I'm not like some corporate training guy. I'm a person who has experience with being in bands and producing music and training people on music, and I've just had to learn how to actually talk to a camera as if there's a bunch of people out there. So yeah, I mean, I'm not really a super technical trainer. Where my expertise is in more mindset, mental habits, and preparation, focus, and organization. And the techniques really follow that. What I like to try to be able to do is break down complex things into simple, bite-sized things that you can absorb and immediately put to use, instead of trying to impress you with how much I know or what have you. That never seems to help people that much. All it does is kind of puts the teacher on some sort of weird pedestal, which I think is kind of stupid. So at the end of the day, you're still using cut, copy, paste, delete, and duplicate, for most of your editing. So it doesn't all have to be super complex. I hope that makes sense to you guys. If you want to know a little bit more about my philosophy, obviously you can read the reviews of my book, once again, The Mental Game of Electronic Music Production on Amazon. Or on YouTube, I've got a video called 10 Things That Nobody Tells Producers. And that is one of my more popular videos. And it really kind of gets to some of the philosophy that I go by. Obviously, I don't recommend that you jump onto it now, but keep that in mind, or maybe take a note to check it out later if you want to know a little bit more about my philosophy. How we doing over here? Nick says he read the book. That's awesome. And Spencer has it, and Sean has it. And Bobby Allen says, what is the name of the book again? The Mental Game of Electronic Music Production. Thanks, Nick. I appreciate that. Super cool. Now, as we go, if you guys have questions, feel free to drop them in the Ask a Question section. That's what I'm going to be looking at through this, and we'll definitely go through and I'll answer as many questions as I can from you guys as we go through this. I'll be kind of checking back and forth, and obviously checking some of my notes so that we keep on track. All right. So yeah, feel free at any time to just drop a question, and when we get to that point, I'll go through those questions. All right. So here's something that you guys have probably gone through. I'm sure that many of you guys have gone down the rabbit holes of forums and Facebook groups and YouTube channels and all that stuff. And I have all the above as well, so I'm guilty of the same thing. But here's the thing is there's a major difference between feeding yourself with information and an actual transformation. Information is like someone just giving you a toolbox and telling you how each tool works and all the complex things that each tool can do, where transformation actually makes a difference in what you are able to accomplish with the information that you have. And that's what I want to focus on with you guys. And that's what I am most known for doing, is creating actual transformations instead of just shoving a bunch of information at people, because I don't think that really helps people. Transformation that I am most committed to assisting people with is in finishing release quality songs. That's at the end of the day what I think the goal is. The goal is not who has the better studio, who has the better plugins, who has the more expensive stuff, who does things in the most complicated way. It's the person that finishes release quality songs more consistently in their unique style. Right? I hope you guys can agree with that and kind of understand the difference between information and transformation, because that's a big one. For example, type a 3 if you have taken another Ableton course or done an Ableton workshop. All right? Type a 3 if you have taken an Ableton course, any other course, or if you have done a workshop. All right? Maybe something similar to this, or maybe a course or training of some sort. Type a 3 if that is you. And I will sit here and wait for a second. Ollie, you're asking for tips. Like I said, drop that question in the Ask a Question section. I'll show you my screen real quick. As you can see, there's an Ask a Question section right here. So if you click in there, you can just click Ask a Question and type it in there, and then I'll get to it there. All right, Ollie? So, yeah. Let me jump back over. All right, yeah, so Jerry, Ollie, Nick, Damien. So you guys have taken courses, right? So, or at least a course somewhere regarding Ableton or your music production. So, great. So the question I have for you guys is, did it help you to finish more release quality songs? Did you accomplish more after you finished the course than you were accomplishing before you started the course? Or did the course just fill you up with more information that made you maybe feel a little smarter? It's either going to make you feel a little smarter or it's going to make you feel a little more overwhelmed, one of the two in most cases. So how many of you guys were finishing more release quality songs after taking the course? Just type a yes or a no on if you were finishing more songs, all right? Yeah, Jerry said that he was doing the audio production at Full Sail. Yeah, that's a big one, right? So type a yes or a no if you actually were accomplishing more from having taken that course. All right. I just want to kind of get a head count of yeses or nos. All right. DJ Biodanza or Biodanza says Mexico, $20. I'm not sure what that means, but welcome. Good to have you here. Damon says no. Nick says no. Jerry says I was able to understand the lessons in Logic, X, and Pro Tools. Okay, so you learned your DAW a little bit. That doesn't necessarily mean you're finishing more songs, but to understand your DAW is, you know, a fundamental for sure. So Jerry said yes, it did help him finish more. Ollie said 50-50. Okay, great. So most of you have taken courses and really haven't been able to push the amount of songs that you're finishing, and that seems to be the case in many cases because most people don't respond to just learning techniques. Most people that get better at finishing songs already kind of had the seed in them of how to finish songs, and sometimes it can give you a small boost. Hopefully it gives you a long-lasting kind of boost, because that's really the goal, is that it transforms you to where, you know, after that it doesn't just like temporarily motivate you to finish more. It actually you know, creates a change. Spencer says yes. Okay, cool. So some of you are yeses, several of you are no. Trevor says everything from school was just connections. I learned more teaching myself than at school. Okay, right. So that to me, that's the difference here between information and transformation. And my goal is to teach in transformation. And the thing about that is the problem with most courses is that they don't really get into how to train your brain to pull in information and put it to use. They're just saying, let's jump into your DAW of choice and let's just start showing you a bunch of techniques. And I think a lot of people do this is because they don't really think it's very cool to talk about mindset or your goals or focus or any of that stuff. And I totally get that. I mean, you guys probably wouldn't have shown up here if I would have talked about, hey, I'm going to help you with your mindset or what have you. So I just want to make that distinction. You know, I don't want to bore you with this, but it's a good thing to keep in mind as you move forward and look for further types of training. And you want to realize at the end of the day what your real goal is. And, you know, if you're working with me, then normally your goal is you want to actually finish more songs, right? Ollie says being self-taught gave me handy tips on using radio effects and track layout. See, so these are techniques, and it's really cool to understand techniques. But once again, sometimes techniques will actually block you from finishing songs because it's one more task that you need to accomplish before you allow yourself to actually just finish songs with what you know. So just something to keep in mind. All right, guys? Me, myself, I am self-taught. I'm not a professional musician. I've never taken like proper lessons on any particular instrument. I just kind of taught myself by ear. All right. But the one thing that I really feel lucky about is in not having proper training. And by the way, I'm not talking down to anyone who has had proper training. It's just a different approach. But what really helped me is understanding that simplicity and simple ideas can come across just as powerfully, if not more powerfully, than complex ideas. So I learned that I didn't have to be complex to connect and communicate with an audience. And that was one of my biggest lessons. You know, that means that um, I didn't have to be some sort of a Mozart, you know, or you know, some great solo player or whatever to write songs, you know. And for me, writing songs, songwriting was always the most important aspect of things, not really trying to be impressive on an instrument. It was more about getting a song idea out and down, you know. Felt like I could always hire a musician who's better than me to fill in some of the spaces that need to be filled in. But for me, I was always very interested in the both the production aspect and the songwriting aspect, right? But you know, once again, the simple ideas seem to stick with people a little bit better, you know, than complex ideas. Just something to keep in mind, especially with electronic music. You know, it can really get complicated. So you want it based on something that that people can kind of, you know, bite into. You know, that's not too complicated. So I'll just quickly tell my story. You know, how I started making electronic music. Once again, I was in bands from 1988 to 1996. I got to play some pretty cool shows. We won a lot of contests. Musician Magazine voted one of my bands one of the best in the country. I think one of the 50 best or something like that. We won a lot of contests. We sold out some shows in Hollywood. You know, I lived in California, so that was kind of a big deal for me when I was younger. And I remember my drummer brought in a CD, and he said, "You got to check this out." And I did, and it was the first Chemical Brothers album, and I was just blown away by it. And keep in mind that with the bands that I was in, we were using drum machines for most of the bands, and I was programming synthesizers and stuff like that. So I kind of had you know, an electronic music background in a way, but you know, I was still playing guitar in front of the electronics and stuff like that. So once I heard that, I really wanted to explore diving deeper into electronic music. So that was about 1996 that I started making electronic music, and I really didn't look back. I mean, once again, I'm picking up my guitar again a bit more and working on some other projects. But yeah, electronic music really took over for me and just excited me in so many ways. And obviously, my style continues to change and so forth. Kind of interesting. You know, I'm curious if you guys come from background, like a lot of the electronic musicians I know come from like a metal background or a hardcore background. You know, I kind of come more from like a new wave kind of indie background sort of thing. So people come from all over. It's really, really interesting how that starts, you know, but that was the way I started. And yeah, so I've already talked to you guys about, you know, finishing songs. What I want to share with you guys, if you don't mind, let me just, I'm going to jump over here and check the chat. Also, I don't see any questions in the Ask a Question. So remember, if you have a question, drop it in the Ask a Question section, and then I'll try to get to it. All right, yeah, it looks like you guys are just paying attention. I'm not requiring you to do or say any particular thing, which is fine. So real quickly, just so you guys understand that, you know, I don't come from, you know, being an expert on any of this. I did some really embarrassing things. And I'll tell you a quick story. I don't know that you'll be able to relate just because it's so embarrassing that I guarantee that this is more embarrassing than your embarrassing story about music production. So at the time, it was around very early 2000s. I had just quit my job at Guitar Center, and because I was kind of training people on the side, and I figured, well, I might as well take that side job and just quit this job and take on clients. So that's what I was doing. And, you know, I had learned a lot of the software at the time. All the softwares were on like version 1 or version 2. And when I worked at Guitar Center, what was cool is they gave us the software for free to learn so that we can better sell it. I just ended up being one of the guys that really took that seriously and started learning how to use all the equipment. I mean, all the software. So I started offering to, produce and do some mastering or clean up people's vinyl. A lot of people at the time wanted to clean up their vinyl and get it on digital. So, I was using noise reduction tools and things like that. But I was also starting to produce bands. Some of them were, ended up being good. But one of the early bands that I worked on is a super embarrassing story. So you got to understand that I really did not have much money. Sometimes I was selling equipment just to pay my bills and things like that. So I got a job mixing a hip hop band or a rap band. I'm not sure which, probably more of a rap band. And so what I had done is I went over to their house and they told me what they wanted, and they gave me all the separate files, all the separate tracks, and they wanted me to mix it. And I think they were paying me like $150, which I really needed. So so I drive down there and I pick up the CD, or actually it was a DVD, and I bring it into my computer at home, and I realized that the what they had done is rendered just a stereo mix like a bunch of times. They thought that they had soloed each track and had each individual instrument. Well, they didn't. It was just all the same thing like 15 times, right? Now, at the time I was so broke that I didn't really have the money to drive back there and tell them about this. So I thought that I would be really, really clever and work with this. I thought that they would think, wow, this guy's a freaking genius, he's able to take our bad files and make a great mix out of it, which is totally not what happened. So what I was doing was I was EQing each part like in a way where it emphasized one certain part, like either one vocal or one instrument or a certain drum sound or what have you. That's what I was trying to do with all the EQs, so that each full track kind of sounded a little bit more like an individual track. And then I went and tried to produce that and do a mix down. And so that's what I did, right? I mean, this is just awful. But once again, so I do that, and I feel really proud of what I did in a really embarrassing way. So I go over, I drive over to their place with the CD, kind of excited to give it to them. And then I was going to explain how I did all this magic, to their track, because they didn't give me the files properly. But when they put the CD in, it was very apparent that they were not pleased at all with the mix, and nor should they have been. It was a pretty awful mix. And I had to sit there while everyone was shaking their head, in embarrassment. But it gets worse, because I had driven on an empty tank of gas, and I wasn't going to be able to make it home without getting paid. And they clearly were not going to pay me for this shitty job. Of course, they asked, why didn't I just come back and pick up another DVD from them with the correct stuff? And the bottom line is, I just didn't want to spend the money for gas. I didn't have it. So I ended up having to beg these guys for just enough money to get gas in my car so I can get home. So talk about a really horrible session that went horribly wrong, and walking away with my tail between my legs. The worst session experience ever, most embarrassing thing that I've done. So wherever you're at, just understand that we all have embarrassing stories, and some are more embarrassing than others. But at the end of the day, if I was able to get from there to here, then you can totally do that as well. I hope that makes sense. If you can relate to any of that, or if you've got kind of an embarrassing story, just put an exclamation point somewhere in the chat. You know, I'm just curious if you guys have your own embarrassing stories. But you know, I just want to be overly authentic with you guys. You know, I really think that I have to share my truth. You know, if I hide my truth, then I don't give you guys an opportunity to connect with me. And I'd much rather work with people who want to connect with the real me instead of like some markety version who always says the right things and pretends like he's never made a mistake. You know, I just think that's ridiculous. So let me just check the chat over here. I'm kind of just curious. Marching band, choir, concert, Jerry says, grunge, breaks, drum and bass, house. That's cool. So you guys were talking about how you guys kind of came to electronic music, and that's pretty cool. Bobby says, thank you for sharing. Yeah, you're welcome. That is me being, you know, I'm not going to get naked on camera, but that's about as naked as I'm going to get, right? So I hope that that doesn't hurt our relationship, and I hope that that gives you something that maybe you can relate to, even though I'm pretty sure you haven't done anything quite as embarrassing. So yeah, let's get back into this, all right? But yeah, in the past, you know, here's the thing, you know, like I said, I'm not a marketing guy. I'm a musician who just happens to have sat down with enough people where I have some knowledge, you know, and I've worked on music enough myself that I've been able to help other people get to the next level. That said, I have done some marketing stuff that I'm not super proud of, you know. I think we all do, because we're just afraid of being ourselves at the end of the day. We're afraid of that we're going to be judged, that people won't trust us. So it's weird. It's like, in order to get people to trust us, we have to lie about who we are or what have you. And I wouldn't say I lied. I just didn't like the type of marketing that I was doing. It just didn't feel very authentic. So I hope that you guys can relate to this guy who says a lot and is not a perfect speaker, you know, because that's not what I'm an expert at. You know, I'm an expert at helping people finish more songs, and it's not really about me being the best speaker or presenter. And I don't even know if that's something that I really ever want to be, you know. So yeah. So with that said, we're getting pretty close here. I'm wondering who has a song or 10 songs or 20 songs or more that are unfinished, that started off pretty good, but they lost their spark and you lost your interest. Type of 5, if you've got songs that have lost their spark and you lost your interest and you either threw them away, or put them on a hard drive and never really went back to them. Type of 5, if that's you. I just want to see how many of you guys have unfinished songs that you don't know what to do with. They just lost that spark. They lost that thing that motivated you in the beginning. Or maybe you started off and the song sounded really awesome. You started adding a bunch of new parts and it was sounding better and better and better. And all of a sudden you come back the next day thinking that you've got this great song and you don't even know what you're listening to. You don't even recognize what you're listening to. It just does not sound like the same song that you were working on the day before. And it bums you out and you feel like you just took it in the wrong direction and it's not recoverable, right? If that's you, type a 5, all right? Because here's the thing. Most of those songs can be recovered. And not only can they be recovered, but some of those songs can end up being some of your best tracks, you know? And most of the songs that you're going to finish are going to come from struggle. They're not going to be super easy. So if you want to finish 5 times more songs, then you have to finish the songs that are hard. You have to learn what to do to regain your interest and excitement in a certain song and find that groove again. Does that make sense, guys? I'm just going to check and see if you guys are typing 5s over here. Yeah, a lot of 5s. All right. So a lot of you guys are in the right place right now, because that's what we're going to talk about. That's what we're going to get into, is what to do, how to recover from this, right? Um, here's the thing that's really important for you guys to understand is that most breakdowns, most times where you feel like you failed, um, lead to a breakthrough. In fact, most breakthroughs come as a result of a breakdown, because a breakdown usually means that you're trying to push your brain to do something that it hasn't done before, or it hasn't done it quite in that way before, and it's being presented with a new problem. And the brain doesn't like to be presented with new problems until it's solved that problem 3 or 4 or 5 times. Then all of a sudden it just becomes part of your automatic um, intuition. You don't have to think about it. But when you have to think about it, the brain doesn't like to do that. The brain likes to use as little energy as possible. It likes to kind of just repeat the things that it's done before, and it's trying to reserve your energy, either for processing food or for just all the normal things that you do during the day. And most of those things are things that you've done before. So anytime that you try to take on something new, you're probably going to have some sort of a breakdown. And if you're not prepared for it, then you're not going to get yourself to the breakthrough. So that's how a lot of songs can end up being better than you expected them to be, because you've pushed yourself through. All right. And here's something that you really need to understand is that not finishing songs is as much of a habit as finishing songs. So if you have more songs that you haven't finished than you have, what habit do you think you're telling your brain is the best habit, right? And that's why it's so important to kind of take your song to a finished level, call it done. When you reach just beyond your comfort zone, that's usually a good time to call it done. It doesn't have to be perfect. You have to call it done at a certain point. And as you finish songs, what's going to happen is you're going to learn new things and have these aha moments. And you're going to discover something that you can apply to like all the previous songs that will make all of those songs better. So just by continuing to finish songs, you're going to make these discoveries, every, so often, that will improve all the stuff you've done in the past. So you don't necessarily have to release everything that you finish right away, but you should get it to a point where, you can call it finished, and you can always go back and touch it up when someone comes knocking on your door and asks you for music to release. It happens all the time. And also, perfection is boring. No one can relate to perfection. I just shared my imperfection, and I think you guys are able to relate to my imperfection much more than if I were to tell you how great I am. You probably relate more to my story about working with that hip hop band than you can relate to me saying, oh, I've had a #1 EP on Beatport. So what? How does that relate to you? You know what I mean? Obviously, maybe you aspire to like get some songs in the charts and that sort of thing, and maybe that gives you a little bit of confidence that what I teach, I also preach, I also practice. But I'd never get anything done if I was going for perfection. Perfection is boring, and there's so many ways to finish a song, to mix a song. Obviously, there's fundamentals as well. But if you're going for perfection, you're going to finish very little, and it's probably not going to be very exciting, because the perfection part is where you slice and cut the fat and all the little parts that actually make the song interesting. So, something to keep in mind. So as we get into this process that I'm going to share with you, I'm going to, once again, I'll be sharing a PDF of this, these kind of slides. It's one of the few parts of this training where I'll get into slides so that I can express more of what I'm talking about. I've also pre-made some videos, so I'll drag some, 2-minute videos in, a couple of those, to kind of really send this home to you on what I'm going to train you guys on. All right. So stick around, and I'll give you the PDF on that. That's something that you can just use and pull up anytime you want to repair a song. All right. So how are you guys enjoying this more conversational, less slide kind of workshop? Is this connecting with you more, or did you prefer like a more formal, you know, where I'm behind like a, you know, just a black and white screen or something like that. That's just showing slides and stuff like that. So if you prefer just slides, put right slides. If you prefer face to face, just put face. So face or slides. I'm just curious on how this is going for you. If you guys are relating in it, if you enjoy this, all right. Face or slides. I'm just curious if you like this approach. I prefer this approach because I think it's more personable. Although, you know, I will be using some slides. I don't want to overdo it. You know what I mean? It's just, I think that it's me hiding behind slides. You're not really able to, you know, get to know me as a person. And, you know, that's obviously one of my goals in doing these workshops is get you to understand me, my philosophy, who I am, and my imperfections, and also let you guys understand what my expertise are as well. Sean says face. Thanks, Sean. Bobby says it's your first workshop. I like the face-to-face. Face. Nick says face. Jerry says face. Ollie says this is on my level. Face. Damien likes face and slides. That's great because that's kind of what this is going to be. It's going to be face and slides, but if it were 90% slides, I don't think I would enjoy it as much. And I've done that before. And I just feel like it's harder to make a connection with people. And it's hard to be real with people when you're hiding behind, you know, something else on your screen. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I'll definitely keep that in mind. All right. So face and slides as we move towards getting into slides. So yeah, this is going to be pretty simple. Right? This is going to be something that you're going to be able to take away and do right away. There's not a whole lot of steps to it. But here's the thing. I don't want to talk over anyone's head. I want to show you simple things that everyone can do instead of like trying to make something complex that only a few of you are able to benefit from. You know, once again, I don't like to talk over people's heads. And there's a really cool Einstein quote that he says that if someone can't break down something complex into something simple that people can understand, then they themselves don't understand it well enough to explain it. So I completely agree. You know, I'm going to give you things that are simple to do. So if you guys feel ready for that, then let's just do this. Let's dive into this training full on. And once again, if you got any questions, make sure to drop them in the Ask a Question section. All right. I'm going to drag over the slides here. So I'm going to go away, but I'll be jumping back and forth. All right. So that we can keep the conversation going. Let's see here. What's the best way that I can do this? Okay, I'm going to put this over here. All right, so hopefully you guys can see this. How to recover a song that has lost its spark. All right. This is going to be a lot of fun. All right. It's going to be really doable and simple for you guys. So let's get right into it. Right. We've already talked around this. So step one, and you guys can write this stuff down, but I'm also going to give you this PDF. Now, step one, I put turn everything down. And although I would agree with this, I think a better approach is just to mute all your parts. So you're pulling in your song that you're just not feeling it. There's something that's not happening in your song, and it's lost its spark. It's lost its ability to kind of motivate you. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to just turn everything down, or rather, we're just going to hit the mute button on everything, and then we'll start bringing it back in the parts one by one. Okay. Everyone with me here? Step one, super easy. Just mute everything. Then, I don't know why this is working weird, but anyway. Then what we're going to do is we're going to start, probably best to start with the kick drum. And you probably want the kick drum, you know, on the master, you know, not to be much louder than -8 or even -10. It's much easier to mix low than mix too high, and then everything overdrives, right? So get your kick drum, you know, in a decent place where it's not too loud, not too quiet, and then you're going to kind of mix your drum sounds in one at a time. All right. Let me see what number 3 here. Okay, we'll get to that in just a second. So here's a couple things that you should take away from this simple thing. Is a lot of times what people do is they turn the volume up from low to high, and what happens is they're not hearing that sound until usually it's a little bit too loud. And you're always going for clarity, right? Like every new sound you want to be as clear as possible. The problem is when you go for clarity in that way, going from low to high, you often turn up the last thing you mixed too loud. So usually by the end of mixing, the last thing you mixed is louder than it should be. And the first things that you mixed, like your kick drum and your snare and all that stuff, is starting to get buried underneath all that. And now you feel like you need to turn up all your other parts. So a better approach is to, when you bring in a new sound, turn that sound up a little bit too loud, and then start pulling it back and see how low you can let it be in the mix and still cut through. And while you're doing that, switch between focusing on the sound you're mixing to the other sounds that are in that are playing at the same time, because you want to know how each sound affects the other sounds. So sometimes you'll focus on the sound, and sometimes you'll focus on everything except for the sound that you're mixing. And it's just a good mental practice. So once again, instead of going from low to high, that's like, you know, you don't notice that pretty girl in the room until she like comes up close to you. When she walks away, you still are able to see her very clearly in a crowd. But if someone's far away and you've never seen them before, you're not going to notice them until they're too close. You can kind of look at sound the same way. So I hope that kind of helps you out. All right. So once again, you're going to be mixing in parts one by one, unmuting those parts and then getting them back in, and then kind of finding a mixing spot. So number 3, if any of the songs don't sound good with the groove, or don't improve the groove or the vibe of the song, you're going to mute it again. Just if it's not working when you turn it up, just mute it and go on to the next sound. And then we can deal with those sounds later. We only want the sounds that are improving our groove, right? It's the bass as well. So are you guys with me so far? Guys, this I look over to connect with you. So far, questions as well. But back over here. Sure. Yeah. All right. Okay. So once the levels are set, yep, of course. Now it's going way too fast. All right. Hold tight just a second. I don't want you to see all this quite yet. Are you guys with me so far? You know, really simple so far, right? At least that's the goal. All right. Let me just get where we need to be, and then I'll jump right back on. Okay. Okay, here we go. Boom. All right, so once levels are set for all the sounds that are working, now we're going to go back one by one to the sounds that are not working. And there's a couple things that we can do that will help these sounds work much better in your track. So here are some of the steps that we're going to take. So each sound, one at a time, you should deal with in one of the following ways. So here we go. First, take your sound and move either the whole sound, the loop, or the offending MIDI note 1/16 to the left, 1/16 to the right, 1/8 to the left, 1/8 to the right, and see if there's a better position for that sound that improves the groove and moves the groove forward instead of holding the groove back. And maybe by moving it just, slightly, like I said, 1/16 or 1/8 note one way or another, maybe it opens up and frees up another sound that's being hidden as well. And that can improve the groove also. So then what you're going to do is you're going to pick which position is best for the groove. And there might be a case where none of these actually improves the sound. It might not work, but this is one of the things that you can try. And a lot of times this alone can really help a sound fit into your track better. So I hope if you're still with me, just type an exclamation point and once again, try to take notes and what have you. So yeah, like I said here, oftentimes the position of a sound masks another important element of your song. And other times the position seems to move your groove in the wrong direction. So you just want to be mindful of that as you're adding these sounds back in. So as you can see here by the pictures, you just simply, you want your resolution at like 1/16 note, and you can kind of move it one side or another. Or you could even move a whole MIDI part left or right. Or there might be an individual note that just doesn't seem to be working. So you can be totally mindful of that. So with that there, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to drag a video in real quick to illustrate what I'm talking about here. So here we go. A couple things about moving notes. Some of this is going to be pretty obvious, but sometimes there's just one offending note here, right, in your overall groove. And you could just take that note and try moving it, 1/16 of a note one way or another, and see if that will affect the groove better. In other cases, you might want to highlight, several notes and move the whole thing left or right. That's totally up to you on what you want to do, and you can try both if something seems like it's not working to see how it fits a little better in the mix. Another thing that you can do here, if you're working with a loop, is, let me just highlight these. These two parts are already highlighted, so great. So let's say we've got these two parts going, like so. Now what you can do is you can move the arrow on one of your loops and see if you get a more interesting rhythm or groove on the loop in the way that it works with the rest of your track. So I'll just show you this real quick. And it can give you some ideas that might inspire you more than what's already happening, and it's just a real simple thing. Then again, sometimes you have like just a note or something like that, or just like a sound effect or something like that, and it just doesn't seem to be moving the groove forward. Once again, you could just try moving this, behind a 16th or 8th note or ahead a 16th or 8th note, and that could help solve that problem as well, and all of a sudden fit better into the groove. So just by a little bit of movement, that can take care of stuff. All right, I hope you guys got something out of that video, and we'll jump back over to the slides. But yeah, that is the first thing that you can do, and a lot of times this will solve a problem of a particular sound. So let's jump back over. So the next thing is it the sound itself that needs to change or be processed differently? Maybe it needs to be EQ'd a little bit differently, or maybe the sound itself needs to be changed. Maybe the location is fine, but the sound is just not working quite right in your track. It could be a drum sound that's not quite working. It could be any sort of sound that you bring in. So if it's a problem sound that's in the right location, but it just is not fitting correctly, then what you want is to have kind of a clear idea of what sound would be better before you start like just diving super deep into a bunch of samples and trying to sound design a bunch of things, because that's probably not going to give you the results that you're looking for, or it's going to just waste a lot of time. And it's much better to have a more clear idea of what you're looking for. You know, be open to accidents to happen, but don't sit there for hours trying to find that perfect sound. You got it? Next, it could be that your part sounds too stiff. It sounds too much like general MIDI, or just like too much to the grid. It doesn't have any groove. It doesn't have any swing to it, right? So in that case, you want to add some swing and groove to the part and see if that will help. And oftentimes that will really get your body moving a little bit more to the part, and it will it can drive your groove forward. As you can see here, what you want to do is go to your places, and then you'll find packs. And in packs, then you'll find core library. And then in the core library, you'll find swing and groove. And I'm going to drop a video in just to show you how that works as well. So this is a video about how to use swing in your track. All right, if we come over to our packs over here to the left, then we're going to go into our core library, and then we can find the swing and groove right here, okay? And this has all kinds of different grooves that you can work with that just gives your song a bit more swing. And you're able to kind of listen by turning this on here, kind of how the rhythm is. So a lot of variations in here. That's just like the hip hop one. We could come into swing. Let's do like a more extreme one here. So what you can do is you can drag this into your groove here, and I'm going to highlight all these here, and I'm going to start with none so you can kind of hear what it sounds like, just flat. All right, and now what I'm going to do is I'll choose this swing 1675, and it's set to 100%. So you're going to hear a pretty massive difference once I play this. Once again, before and after. And you could set the timing between 100% and 0%. So you can like kind of, what I like to do is drag in like a more extreme one, and then I could just vary the timing based on the percentage. So I can listen to this here, and I can back it off or move it forward until it sits where I want it to. So having groove is something that's pretty important, and it will definitely keep your song from sounding static. If it just sounds too flat to you, this can really spice up the groove. All right, so once again, I hope that helped. Groove is really, really important, and having a little bit of swing, so everything's not so stiff. Makes a massive difference. And certain styles really rely on a good amount of swing as well. So keep that in mind. So next, if none of these seem to work for you, changing the sound, moving the sound, or changing the groove, you might want to consider trashing the sound and just moving on to the next thing. But I'm going to give you one more tip that I think will also help, and that is by reducing the decay on a sound or a collection of sounds. I think it can really help things fit in the mix better. And I've got another video here to help explain that as well. So let me just throw that in, and here we go. So here's a little decay trick that can really help clean up your mixes, because a lot of times some sounds are just kind of too long, or they're taking up a little bit too much space, and maybe you just want kind of the groove elements of it, but you don't need the sounds to be fully long. So here's an example on this loop here. All right, that sounds fine, but maybe within a groove, if this is an added beat, you don't need it to take up quite as much space. So what we're going to do here is we're going to stay on beats, and then we're going to come to transients like you see here. We're going to change this. Normally by default it is, I think, this one, 2 arrows. And if you go to the 1 arrow, then this 0 to 100 number here is actually going to change the decay on every transient. So you'll definitely be able to hear the difference as I bring this down. So with that, you can like kind of go through some of your audio parts at least and kind of scale back some of the decay and see if that'll clean up some of your groove and bring some other parts forward in the mix and bring other things to life. So that's definitely something you could try as well. All right, so yeah, those are the steps. Really simple, right? If you can go through those 4 options, I believe that you can really get yourself inspired by your track once again. And once again, just don't hold on to those parts that aren't working. Just don't be afraid to just let them go. You can always like add more sounds or whatever, you know, once you are re-inspired. You just want to be careful that everything that you add is going to add back to the groove and move it forward instead of backward. Obviously, when you have breakdowns and stuff like that in your track, you kind of want the groove to slow down, but you understand what I mean. The main groove has to kind of really have a nice momentum. You know, even ambient music has some sort of I guess it might not be groove, but it has a certain feel and timing to it. So no matter what it is that you're doing, there's something that moves you. And if you stop moving, especially in electronic music, then you can be pretty sure that the listener is not going to be moving forward in that song either, right? So how many of you guys can put that to use like right away? Go ahead and type, just type me if this is something that you find useful enough that you can just put to use right away. And you know, if you guys feel like you want to take on one of your songs now and give this a try. Because I think that this simple approach will really help you transform a lot of those songs that you were never planning on finishing. For me, 9 out of 10 of the songs that I lose interest in, I'm able to recover this way. And like I said before, a lot of these songs end up being some of my best. So I hope that's what happens for you guys as well. You know, I'm just gonna jump over here real quick and see if we can keep this conversation going here. All right. I just wanted to check the chat here. All right. So yeah, guys, it's been a pleasure. You know, it's been a pleasure, like working with you guys and seeing if I can help you to be able to finish more tracks. You know, That's always been my goal. So what I'm going to do now is let's check some of the questions that we have here. Um, and like I said, I'm going to get that PDF over to you. I got to find the link, so it might be after we finish this, but you can come back here, and the link will be there for the replay. All right, so just check where you're making comments, and it'll be there. So let's see here. Question here from Nick is: I know this isn't a necessity at all, but do you have any recommendations for third-party mixing plugins? I'm glad that I'm going to ask this again because I'm putting a little marker here. So it says, I know this isn't a necessity at all, but do you have any recommendations for third-party mixing plugins? Well, yeah, I mean, the first thing that I'm going to preface this with is if you're not finishing songs right now with like what you have, and I recommend that you use Ableton Suite because it's got kind of all the tools that you really need in order to finish songs. So if you're not already finishing songs, then I really wouldn't bother with third-party plugins because it's just another thing to learn. And honestly, no one cares what compressor you use. No one really cares. At the end of the day, the tool you use, it's the end result. Now, you might find that you like something a little better than another thing. For example, FabFilter makes some really great plugins, right? I don't use them all the time. I actually still use stock plugins because I know how to use them. And since I know how to use them, it's very quick for me. And I don't need to fuss over all the minute difference between the sounds. But is FabFilter a little bit better on some things? Yeah, it probably is. As far as like a cool tool, I really like a program called Nerve, which is more like a drum programming sort of plugin, but it's really great with sound manipulation as well. It's made by, oh gosh. Well, the guy who made these plugins for Deadmau5, because they used to work together, Steve Duda is the guy's name, and I just forget what it is, but you can search for Nerve. I think that's a pretty cool program. I like the synth, the Iris synth. It's more of an experimental sort of synth. It's I think it can be practical as well, but I like to use it for more experimental stuff. But yeah, I'm not going to go too deep into third-party plugins because once again, I want to encourage you to use what you got, and I use, 80% of what I use is internal stuff, and then maybe 15, 20% at sometimes I'll use some third-party plugins, but it's not necessary. You know what I mean? So there you have it. The next question comes from Spencer. Xfer, that's right. Thanks, Trevor. It is Xfer. That is totally right. Nerve. The last few tracks I've made, I find myself processing with plugins and automating as I make the track. Eventually, my CPU usage is so much that it bogs down the whole track before I'm finished with it. I want to ask, how do you go through your process? I feel like I should try something different. However, I also feel like I get inspired for the next part of the track. So this is a pretty simple answer, really. I don't think you're doing anything wrong at all. I do the same thing. I kind of process as I go. It keeps me inspired. But yeah, you do got to watch out for your CPU. But what you can do, and some producers actually suggest that you go and fully commit to your plugins by just freezing the track and then flattening it. And that will just turn it into an audio track that already has all the effects embedded, so it doesn't take up any extra CPU. I'm more of like just freezing the track so that I can go back if I want to. But typically, if you freeze the track just by right-clicking and hitting freeze, that will save a lot of your CPU. So, you might just want to do that as you go if your computer doesn't have a whole lot of processing power. So it's a real simple fix, but I wouldn't change the way that you're doing things though. Just consider freezing those tracks to save CPU. So cool. That is that, guys. So my question to you is, How many of you guys would like to finish 2 to 3 songs in the next month? In the next like 30 to 45 days? How would you like to finish a full EP, 2 to 3 songs? Some people finish 4, but I'd say realistically the first time around, finishing 2 to 3 songs is pretty realistic within 30 to 45 days. So if that is you, just type me. I want to know how many of you guys are looking to finish original tracks. Like I showed you how you can recover some of your tracks, but now I'd like to help you guys take that to the next level where you can take songs from starting idea all the way to finish. And the whole process of the mental side of things, as well as the techniques and the full process. And like I said, this isn't about information, it's about making a transformation so you actually get results. You know, that is what I am an expert at delivering, is results and finishing songs. There's a lot of guys that can teach you more techniques than me. There's a lot of guys that probably know more stuff in Ableton than me, you know, but I certainly could tell you I know enough about Ableton to help you finish songs in whatever style you're making. So if that is something that you're passionate about doing, if you want to start finishing more songs, type me in here, because I'd like to tell you about how you can work with me further, and we can really take a full month together to dive in to this full process. Just grabbing some water here. Yeah. Awesome. So Damien says me, Sean says me, Nick says true, so simple, but I never thought of it. Now I don't know exactly what you're relating to. I apologize. Also, if you guys have more questions, feel free to drop them in. I'll answer more questions as well. But if you don't mind, I would like to just share with you my EP in 30 Days Master course. This is the exact process I use to finish 52 songs in 13 months after going years of only finishing like 3 or 4 songs a year and not signing anything but maybe one of them every like 2 or 3 years. And the ones that ended up getting signed were not actually the style that I was trying to push towards. So yeah, I wasn't signing any of the tracks in a way where I was developing myself as the artist that I wanted to be known for. So I spent a full year devoting myself to creating a process, first for myself, just so that I could get back on track of finishing songs confidently and releasing those songs, you know. So for me, it was a huge accomplishment to finish 52 songs in 13 months and sign all the ones that were originals over the following 2 years, and then be able to continue to make songs anytime I wanted. That's the powerful part, is it's, you know, after this 30 days, this is something that you can carry with you for decades to come. And, you know, my goal is that you're able to finish on average about a song a week anytime that you want, right? So if that's something that that is interesting to you, stick around. I just want to tell you real quickly the 19 steps that we go through to help you finish songs consistently that are of release quality. And so let me just jump over here if you guys don't mind. And I really appreciate you hanging out here. I think that you guys would get a whole lot out of this. So check it out. So first module is goal setting. And I know that's not the sexiest topic, but many of the students, after they go through this very first module, they tell me that the whole course was worth it just for this module, because it completely changed the way they process information and the way that they view their music production, and you know, obviously other things as well. But this is all about shifting your mindset for complete success in reaching your music goals for the next 30 days and beyond. That is what I'm trying to set you guys up for. It's not, I don't want to dive directly into getting into techniques. Your brain needs to be prepared for the information that's about to get, all right? Module 2 is getting up to speed in Ableton. Now, some of you guys are, you know, kind of pros in Ableton. You kind of know the ins and outs, but there's 2 reasons that you would want to go through this. For one, this strips away all the bullshit. This strips away all the shit that you don't need to know in order to finish songs, so you don't overcomplicate things. And this also helps people who maybe aren't as intermediate or who are beginners in Ableton to figure out what they need to know right away without having to dive 100% into everything that Ableton does. So this kind of just prepares you with all the essentials for Ableton and gets you up to speed. Next, this is a huge lesson, and everything kind of builds from here. I teach you guys how to listen like a pro so that you start hearing all the things in music that you never noticed before, so you can understand and reverse engineer and approximate those ideas into your own music, right? Because you're going to get your ideas obviously from listening to other stuff and find out what works for you. And then you're going to kind of make those ideas your own by approximating them, but making them unique to your style. Your ability to listen is going to coincide with your music production skills as a whole. If you can't hear it in other songs, you're never going to really know to put those details in your own songs to make it sound, give it a more expensive and polished sound. All right. So this is a really big one. Next, I go into every effect and instrument in Ableton. And this is not so that you will use all these effects, but that you will understand all the effects enough to choose which ones are really necessary for your style and which ones you don't really need to bother with. All right. Module 5, this is where we start collecting your go-to sounds, creating presets, your samples, your kits that you're going to specifically use for your own sound, your own unique style. And doing this correctly will dramatically speed up your production process. Doing it incorrectly is going to make you super unorganized, which I used to be super unorganized, so I know how much longer it takes when you're not organized with your stuff. Module 6, this is where we dive deep into the 4 most essential effects for music production. If you don't know these 4 effects, you're going to have problems making quality tunes. But if you know these 4 effects exclusively, even if you don't know any other effects, you can still make great productions with these alone. So that, I mean, they're that powerful. And so we dive pretty deep into these 4 effects so that you understand how to use them, why you would use them, and when to use them. All right. Now, after all that preparation and organization and getting your mindset dialed in, this is where we really start your track. So this is where we start putting all the previous training into action, and we start your first track. So you'll have an effective starting point to build up to a release quality song. And a lot of these ideas, start off pretty humble, but you'd be surprised how you can take a humble idea and turn it into something that's really releasable. Module 8, this is where we get into song arrangement. And this is so important, and so many people have such an issue with this. So this is where I can help you quickly get your song arranged without all the normal headaches that are associated with it. And we'll also, because our goal is to create a whole EP, we'll plan out at least 2 more songs at this point, so that when you're finished with this first song, you've already got starter points for your next couple songs. So you're not having to work with an empty slate. Module 9, this is where we start adding the meat. So we're going to build on top of this basic groove, and the basic groove is going to kind of dictate a little bit of the style, but the meat is going to give your song character and atmosphere and its unique sound. So this is going to be the driver of the mood of your song. So this is a very important aspect. In Module 10, this is where I show you guys sound design tips in a way that you can break down complex ideas with basic sound design skills. You don't need to get lost in all the endless options to recreate and approximate the sounds that you're hearing in your head. So this is a real masterclass on how you can use sound design to reverse engineer the things that you're hearing without having to go into a complete college course on sound design. All right. It's really doable for everyone. In module 11, this is where we kind of start to create a sound palette. There's going to be a lot of extra parts that you need to add to your song to keep it from being boring and keep the listener interested. And this is just one of those ways to do that. So this is a really great way to get the sounds that fill in all the details of your track without the need for expert sound design skills. And this can just really make you a sound creating machine, like really easily. This is not super complicated, but incredibly powerful. In module 12, we get into sound manipulation, and I show you really simple ways that you can manipulate sounds so that you can repurpose sounds that are already in your song and use them for different sounds. So, you know, at this time, you've got a lot of raw material inside your song. So why do you need to keep searching outside of your song for new sounds? When you use these repurposed sounds, they're going to have a more likelihood of working within your track because the seed of those sounds are already in your track. So it's kind of like it's in the DNA of the track already. So they got a much better chance of working in your song. Module 13, this is where we start creating our builds and breaks. If we do it beforehand, we don't really know what we're building into or what we're breaking down from. So we don't know if we're going too over the top or not over the top enough. We don't know if we need something that's a little more stripped down or something that's bigger sounding, right? So you need to create your breaks in the context of where your song is going and how the song is structured. So this is really where you can create those magical moments of anticipation and know that you're nailing it. You know, if you do it previous to this, you're going to have a lot of problems. Next, we get into transitions and fills. And this is where we kind of glue the sections of your song arrangement together so it doesn't sound like a really bad cut and copy and paste job, all right? This kind of blurs the transitions in your song and just keeps driving the listener forward without it sounding too loopy, right? There's no problem with the song sounding hypnotic, but there needs to be movement and there needs to be transition that's happening. And this is where we really get into that. Next, I get into return track secrets. And this is kind of a clever misuse of return tracks that can add like these expensive details to your track and pique the listener's interest without overdoing it. These are things that the listener will subconsciously notice more than consciously, but it will just give your track so much more dynamic. I think you'll have a lot of fun with that. Module 16, this is where we start really dialing in your mix. This is where we start to troubleshoot the mix and make sure everything in the track is balanced, clean, and full sounding. These simple techniques will really help you improve your final mix in a big way. So this is a really big lesson here. Next, we get into final tweaks, and this is where we start getting your head out of the DAW, and we get you listening to the song without looking in the DAW, because a lot of times your eyes can deceive you. But when you get your head out of the DAW, you'll notice things that are, you know, kind of blaring at you that you didn't notice before that need to change. So this is kind of where you're able to kind of take note of what is happening in your track. All right. And let me just let you know that this here, you kind of what's going to happen is you're going to notice all these changes that need to happen, and you'll set the time points and what needs to happen. And then when you get back into your DAW, you're not going to be overly emotional about it. You're going to be able to just kind of check off the checklist. And once you have gone through the checklist, sometimes you'll want to go through this process a second time just to make sure you got everything. But usually after 2 times of going through this process, you can be pretty sure that you've nailed your song. Module 18 this is where we repeat the process. And like I said, you've already got a starter point for 2 more songs at least. So this is where you're able to take all the information that we've learned in the previous modules and speed up the process, right? Because all the preparation work has been done and your organization skills have been done, and you've kind of set your sound palettes and all these things. So the next songs that you make are going to come to you much more quickly. So And also, you want to prepare for an EP because most labels are not going to want to sign just one track. Usually, they want an EP of two originals and two remixes, or three originals and one remix, or two originals and one remix, something like that. So this is where you really got to get your head into the idea of making EPs. And then module 19, this is where I help you guys actually get your tracks signed. And well, I help you in the best approach to getting your tracks signed. Because if you do this incorrectly and you make some rookie mistakes, you can really turn off some labels that would be really important to you in the future. And if they remember you made a bad approach to them, it could hurt you from ever signing to that label. So this, we get into that training, and this will just give you a really good perspective on everything. So yeah, those are the 19 steps, guys. That is it right there. So if you have any questions for me, feel free to let me know, and I will answer those questions right away. Here we go. Let's see here. Jerry says, I'm studying online, and in an accelerated program, I feel I need more depth view of live to be successful. Thank you for this opportunity. Awesome. Ollie says, when making an EP, what some of the key sounds or instruments use to link or gel the three tracks together? That is something that we get into in the training in more detail. And it's not something that I can really answer directly here. So yeah, I apologize for that, but I guarantee if you come into the course, you will know exactly what you need to do to kind of make those gel together. And that's why in the early part of the stage, we are actually preparing other songs, because it will help the EP sound more cohesive. All right. So yeah, if you guys have any further questions, feel free to ask. What I'm going to put down here is, if you guys are interested in working with me further, and if this course sounds like something that you would like to check out and know more about, I encourage you to talk with me one-on-one. We'll do a call, and I will find out if this is a good fit for you, right? Sorry, I'm looking not straight. There we go. I had my thing in the wrong place. So here we go. I'm just going to drop this here. It's music software training.com/application. And there's just a questionnaire that I have you fill out so that I learn more about you, more about your commitment, more about where you're at, what your struggles are, challenges. And then we have about a 20-minute chat, and we see if this might be the right fit for you. Okay, so that is that. What I'm also going to put in here is that if you fill out the application, and within the next like 24 to 48 hours, I will definitely get back to you. But I'm also going to give you a discount code. So the course is $797, and you could either pay in full or 4 payments of $200. But if you want to pay in full, and if you do it within the next 48 hours, I'm going to give you, if you fill out the form and we talk, I'll give you a $200 discount code that you can use. So instead of it being $797, it'll only be $597 for you if you want to pay in full. If that's not practical for you, you can still do the 4 payment at $200 per month for 4 months. So with that said, guys, bring on any of your questions. I'm happy to help, and I really appreciate you guys hanging out here. I've got a little bit of time to answer some of your questions. And here's the thing. It's difficult to make a decision to really commit to yourself, especially when it's a financial decision. I have invested in a lot of different coaches in a lot of different areas of my life. And, I've been broke before, so I really didn't want to. I never wanted to. No one wants to invest in a coach, but what they want is results. And the fact of the matter is, you can go at this yourself. and you can take a long path and you can make a lot of mistakes on the way. And there's nothing wrong with that, except oftentimes, especially in this music, with things changing so quickly, by the time you figure out what you're doing, your interests will change and the technology will change as well. With this process is going to help you regardless of what technology changes. You know, this process is something that you can be confident in no matter what happens with the technology, if that makes sense. So if you vibe with me, and I think, you know, most of you here have been awesome, I think we'll have a crap load of fun. You know, this is, we're going to dive deep, obviously, and the way that this training works is there's nothing to show up for. You will get your training access each day. So every day you'll get a new lesson. That'll be a lesson video, like a detailed video. And then there will be a avoiding pitfalls video that I made on top of the first video, just to make sure that you're absolutely clear what needs to be done. Then there will be a workbook that you can go through if you're a bit more visual and you want to review what the video had in it. And then there will be homework that's sent directly to me, and I will go through every person's homework and give feedback to make sure everyone's on the right track. And if you need some help, and I notice that you need some help, then I will I'll assist you so that every step of the way you're moving forward. So I don't let you guys binge. You got to do the work, and then you get access to the next training. And this is a back and forth conversation so that I make sure that you're getting, by the end, you're actually finishing songs. And if you go through this with me, you will definitely finish songs. How quickly you'll finish it, that depends on your time. That depends on your understanding and your pace, right? Everyone takes a different amount of time. It's totally doable in 30 days, but some people take 45 days. I've had students that took 60 days who had never touched Ableton before, but in that time they were finishing songs and building their confidence. So yeah, if you want to jump on board, remember it's just music software training / application, and that is in the comment section. And if you fill that out, then when we talk, and if you decide that you want to pay in full, I will give you a discount code for $200 off. That's if you fill out the form in the next 2 days. And look, if you just want more information, that's fine. But I do want you to have some sort of interest and commitment level when we talk, you know, because I'm going to be kind of trying to go deep with you to figure out how I can help you personally, right? So I want you to kind of be a bit committed on the other end. And with that, that's the training for you guys. So I hope you're able to put to use this ability now to repair your songs and recover songs that you might have thrown away before. If you have interest in working with me more deeply and you want to take the next 30 days to like actually finish songs that you can release, I would love to have you on board. It's going to be really powerful training. What I can do here is let me just share some testimonials while I'm here. All right, if you guys don't mind, let's check this out. So here are some of my testimonials. First one is from Mahara, and he actually wrote me 2 separate emails, which is very cool. He was just keeping in touch with me on how things were going. So first he says, hi Jason, how are you? I wanted to share the news with you. First of all, buying your EP in 30 days course were the best money ever spent. After doing step-by-step, the schedule, and really hold on to it because I tend to lose myself in sound design and session window a lot in the past. I've managed to finish quality songs real quick and sign my first long-awaited EP with a label that has artists that I really like and admire. This thing gave me confidence in my work and in my production skills. Now I'm working on a daily basis only with your 30-day rules of moving forward. Can't thank you enough for putting all this together. It's the essential course that once applied will definitely transform your workflow. And then he wrote me back again and he said, how are you? I have some good news regarding my debut EP. My Lands was released October 29th on Bullfinch Records. One of my tracks, My Lands, got the #4 pick with other 81 tracks from various artists for the best new melodic house and techno. Um, October. Also, this track reached top 100 hype melodic house and techno spot at number 16. Now dropped to 36 after a week, but I guess it's okay. Now it's back to work with some boost. I will attach a print screen, and he goes on. So here is his track at number 16. So that's super awesome. And then at 14 on the best melodic house and techno, I think for that month or something like that. So that was really, really cool. Darren Donovan says, I can't say enough about this course. For me, an experienced Ableton user, this course gave me a fresh look at the program and a guideline for producing music efficiently going forward. I have to hand it to Jason. He knows his stuff. Highly recommended. Daniel Noble says, best thing I ever did was committing to this course, trusting in Jason's approach and his knowledge to forevermore have a life filled with music and me making it. And Jay put, one of the best things I've learned throughout the course has been the process from beginning to end. I've sped up my workflow by 5. No time for procrastination anymore. Thanks, Jace, you're a legend. Jason Shuttleworth writes, I found this course to be a huge step in my productivity and workflow. It's turned music into a regular habit where I spend at least 30 minutes or more every day mixed experiment with new sounds. My buddies and I challenged individuals to spend no more than an hour and a half on a day. It was a challenge, but we find it really selves with how much to achieve in a short time. With the support, here's to you, Jason. Paul put, enjoyed the journey far. As I spent 2 years, I've been trying to learn music production to get infinite days is delayed me. And this I can is share with all. Jump back and let me just grab a share link here. And yeah, I think here we go. Let me just drop that in here. So yeah, in the comments here, you've got these, and I'll also be sharing the PDF. I just gotta find the link to that again. So I apologize that I don't have that all put together. Ollie asks a question here: do many people, when building a track in stereo, then flicking over to mono? You know, mixing in mono is something that I've gotten into with some people, and there are definitely benefits to mixing in mono. At least part of the time. It helps you find panning locations better. You don't have to worry about a sweet spot when you're in mono, so mixing becomes a little bit easier. It's also makes it easier to tell if you're oversaturating your sound with effects, or if there's any sort of conflicting parts. It will show up a lot easier in mono. So yeah, I recommend that you do check some of that at some point. Any more questions, guys? If you got any more questions, let me know. I'd be happy to answer those questions for you. And I know there's latency here, so I'm just holding out for a little bit until I get some questions, or I can cut you guys loose. Either way, I extremely appreciate you guys being a part of this. I think that, once again, I've had a lot of fun with this, and I hope you guys had some fun with it too. But yeah, I mean, look, if this resonates with you and it just feels like a hell yes to you, if this is just something that you've been wanting to do for years, if music is really your life, then you're the boss of your journey. You're the boss of going where you want to go and how quickly you get there. And I would love to work with you. It's a lot of fun. You join a community of people that are really motivated and committed to themselves and are investing in themselves. And that just like changes your whole vibe, you know, just being involved with other people that are making the same commitment as you, and working together with that can really dramatically motivate you in ways that it's harder to do on your own. So. And, you know, I have to ask sometimes, this was the case for me, you know, now I love investing in myself, you know, because I always know the benefit. You know, I always think of what I would miss out on by not investing instead of what the investment is. Because oftentimes, in fact, in every case for me, training has made me more valuable. And that doesn't directly relate to money all the time, but all these little pieces of training that help me either with my health or spiritually or with my business or all these different aspects. When I put those dots together, it definitely makes me more powerful and more effective and able to help more people. So, in this case, finishing more songs. Here's the thing: like, how many of you guys have known of life-changing events that have happened because of music for you? Like, for me, music totally saved me from a really crap life and kind of a crap childhood as well in many ways. It definitely gave me something that nothing else did. And how amazing would it be for you to be that person for someone else? I mean, think about how valuable that really is for you to be able to express yourself musically and to have other people connect and in some way help them heal or help them get out their frustrations or help them know that someone relates to them in one way or another. I mean, music is incredibly powerful, It took me a while to get here where, I run a business or whatever. I mean, I made music originally not for the money because I just had to do it. It was just something that was in me that I had to get out. And I wanted to be that person for someone else, all the way from the beginning, and just being able to train and help people, reach their goals for me is just a complete honor. It's something that I'm really, really passionate about. Let's see if there's any further questions here. Yeah, it looks like we got a couple here. Sean says, could you repeat the price and plans for your course, please? My feed was interrupted yeah, absolutely. So the course it's the EP in 30 Days Master Course is $797. But what you want to do is fill out the form that I've attached, and it's musicsoftwaretraining.com/application. And if you pay in full after filling out that form, once we have a conversation, I will give you a discount code if you want to pay in full for $200 off. So you could actually join the course for $597. Or if that's too big of a chunk for you, you can pay off over 4 months. So that would be $200 every month for 4 months. So that is the pricing for that. I'd love to have you on board, whichever one is doable. Just fill out the application form and I will get back to you within the next 48 hours. All right. Nick says, I've been on a break from recording music since November because of how stressed out and frustrating it was making me. Got to the point to where I dreaded the whole process. I totally relate, by the way. Life has been pretty good during the time and I've been away. I want to dive back in. I'm nervous, but I think I have a very unique ear for music and would be very happy to complete some music. Thoughts? Well, my thoughts are join me. Let's do this. Let's make this happen. I've made this happen for hundreds of students in this course and, helped thousands of people with my best-selling book. And, even my free training has helped a lot of people, but nothing has been more effective in helping people finish songs consistently in their own style than through this course. I would love to have you on board. Once again, just fill out the form. It's musicsoftwaretraining.com/application. And yeah, just answer some of those questions and I will get back to you and we can literally have a one-on-one conversation. I'll call you on the phone and we can discuss your challenges in everything. And if you have some financial challenges, maybe we can work together on that as well. But don't hesitate in getting a hold of me if this is something that you really want. If it's kind of a yes, but you're not sure, you got to understand that kind of, I don't know, I know this sounds a little woo-woo, but when you step forward first, when you make that first step, it's kind of like the universe kind of supports you. And I think you'll find that things start to happen for you. The money will kind of show up for you when you make the commitment to do something that you're passionate about. That's always been how it's been for me. So, I can't tell you exactly how that's going to work for you, but for me, every investment has been a worthwhile venture that has opened me up in so many ways. And the money has kind of come in different ways that I didn't expect. So just something to think about. I don't know what your belief system is, but it certainly works for me. Um, let's see here. I think that is it, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you could do me a favor as well, those of you who are still around, could you share this link with your friends on Facebook or other places? If you got something out of this, I would love for them to come back and be able to watch the replay and get something out of this as well. So I appreciate all of you. Take care and have a fantastic one.